Hello and welcome to SuperGrads by Top Rankers. My name is Vijyaditya Singh. I am Ahmedabad pass out of 2024. Welcome you again to the second season of the five-part series for CMAT on entrepreneurship and innovation. In our previous session, we've already talked about innovation and entrepreneurship and the kind of questions that are asked. We've covered a few key concepts in this part of the series, the second part of the series of this five-part lecture. We'll go ahead and see how to take this forward. The agenda we covered in last slide was the exam pattern overview, some key topics and concepts. In this session, we'll be covering question types and formats and some frequently asked concepts built out of our experience from previous years. Again, the referral code, if in case you want to enroll with us for the CAT 2026 program, or just an admit short fees to get GDPI preparation is this. You can get instant 15% discount, and that might help you. Let's take things forward. We've already covered the question pattern. We've covered entrepreneurship, models of entrepreneurship, theories and frameworks, types and dimensions of entrepreneurship. And that's where we concluded the session last time. In case you missed it by any chance, please go back to the live section and you can watch that lecture. We'll start from here on the second part of the series today, which is question types and formats and frequently asked concepts. The reason we talk about this today is because it's not a typical UPSC or MPPSC kind of a preparation when it comes to questions like this because they might not be extremely straightforward. They might require you to think a bit more than obvious facts. There could be comprehensions of which questions could be framed. Hence, we'll be covering a few of these uh, and some frequently asked concepts apart from the key topics and concepts that we've already covered, based out of our insights on what has been asked in the exam a lot. This will definitely help you in scoring the best in the upcoming CMAT exam. Again, the referral code in case you would want to enroll with us for a full-time course. Okay, starting with the question types and formats, MCQ on definitions. The reason we cover a lot of topics today and key concepts, especially after names, is because a lot of MCQs come directly on definitions as to what does a specific thing mean. Say, for example, an IPO. A lot of people talk about a specific, even the Indian Railways coming up with their own IPO. What does IPO exactly mean? What is the full form of it? Could be a straightforward MCQ question. The answer to this is something that you will find later on, perhaps in like the next 10-15 minutes. It's one of those questions that we'll be answering. Then comes the difference in comparison piece. For example, innovation could be incremental or innovation could be disruptive. Incremental innovation builds on things that are extremely important uh, and on top of it. So it uses everything that has been built so far and builds on top of it. So, for example, Swiggy um, leverages the fact that restaurants are already doing a lot of delivery. It just builds on that network and makes it better without disrupting the delivery market in general. Uh, However, if you say the entire concept of smartphones, when Nokia ruled the market for around 10, 15, 20 odd years with the largest market share, and then Android came in, and then Nokia lost the battle. Nokia phones became redundant. This innovation and this kind of an model disrupts everything that came before it and creates a new alternative altogether. This is called disruptive innovation, and hence differences in comparison in definition is something that you need to have a lot of clarity on. Then comes case studies. Here, startup scenarios and real world analysis are evaluated. Say, for example, one of the youngest billionaires in the country right now, owner of one of the quick commerce startup in India right now. If you know what I'm talking about, you can comment the name of the startup or the CEO of the startup, a 22-year-old billionaire, the youngest billionaire in the country who made it out of a startup. Um, how they went around, what was their startup journey, what were the challenges they faced. These are the kind of questions, and what different did they do compared to their existing market is something that can be asked in the questions as well. There are some assertion and reasoning. This is more like a logical reasoning part where does one thing imply the other or not is something that is tested. You'll be given a few statements and you will be evaluated if you can understand them and the expanse of those statements as clearly as possible. There could be matching questions. Matching questions are actually another way of handling MCQs on definitions. Primarily, what is happening in this piece is instead of them banking on you to definitely know something, they're banking on you to know at least one or maybe two definition in a group of three, four, five maybe, and then you can make sure that you eliminate certain options and then choose the best. That's how the matching questions work. And then, of course, one of the biggest asked sections are the current affairs. If there are latest government schemes, especially from Department of MSME, Department of Commerce, in any new initiative that has come in the country or in the global networks, which can enhance entrepreneurship and innovation, those are things that are extremely important and are taught um, in a very regular basis and asked in a very regular basis. Let's take this forward. In our last class, we covered a lot on the entrepreneurship piece. This time, we'll cover a bit more and starting with innovation. So we must understand entrepreneurship, as we remember from our last class, is a mix of an opportunity and risk taking. Innovation is this specific opportunity that you create for your own self. This does not include identifying an opportunity. It involves creating an opportunity that never existed. Let's deep dive in this, how this happens. Applying new ideas commercially is how you describe innovation. You need to think of something new and you need to make it possible commercially. Say, for example, the first person who would have thought of flying aircrafts innovated the entire aircraft. It did not become an innovation then. It became an innovation when the financial feasibility, the safety parameters, all of those things included, the product came out to be a product that could actually be used for flying aircrafts. The Wright brothers who invented airplane in the first place. Before that, a lot of people have been talking about how there were some inventions, but that is what differentiates inventions from innovations. Innovations are complete products, and these are commercially viable products. There are different kinds of products innovation. Let's understand some of them as the definition and the application of them are a bit different. Say, for example, the product innovation, say, for example, Tata Nano. Tata Nano is a product innovation because never had this country ever seen a car that could be made out of 1 lakh rupees. In terms of that product differentiation, there was a clear innovation. The kind of technology it took to reduce the cost, the kind of financial planning it took to create economies of scale big enough for somebody to mass manufacture cars and make them so cheap and available to you. That was the product innovation. Process innovation, Flipkart's logistics, uh, managing a supply chain network that is so big and so incrementally network. In fact, one of our very interesting examples of this is the brand United Colors of Berkeley. Typically, what happens in the fashion network is clothes are predicted, fashion is always predicted. So basically, if there's something on the store right now, somebody would have thought of the same design 6 months in advance, and then the process would have started there, and then by the end of 6 months, 7 months, the product comes out on the shelf. That's why you see a lot of stu people in the stores looking at products, and they're like, "Who even thought of making this product? This looks so absurd." The probability of something like that is happening is so high, and the reason there are discounts also is because brands are always out there to capture another new trend. They can never time what happens 6 months later in the fashion world. Now, United Colors of Berkeley solved it with a very interesting process innovation. What they did was instead of coloring all the colors in their garments, they all they did was they made their clothes white. The coloring part of it used to happen actually 20 days before the actual product goes to the store. There was no brand in the entire world that was doing it at that point of time. Hence, this allowed United Colors of Berkeley, hence the name United Colors of Berkeley, to come out with solid clothes that were in fast fashion, that were very recent, very new. They had colors that were in. They could do all this because their process was innovated, and hence this is a type of process innovation. Coming to the marketing piece, Patanjali's nationalism branding is a type of marketing innovation. Now, a lot of things have been marketed through health reasons, through aspirational reasons. Nationalism as a branding was somewhat invented in India when Patanjali said this is something that comes from our roots. This is something that the sages have believed even before science existed. And it's a new kind of value that you've given to the customer. You've given your customer heritage, you've given your customer trust that was not founded before, and hence this is called marketing innovation. Organizational innovation typically involves innovating considering the context of a specific organization. Say, for example, in Infosys, um, if you could say, for example, not give an employee a lot of money they were deserving, or similar compensation that they were expecting, you could actually give employee stock options, and that's how the entire process of giving ESOP started back in the day, where you innovated in terms of how can you incentivize your employees. Say, for example, number the people who fly aircrafts, they are allowed to get them and their plus fives to travel for free every month. This is a kind of organizational innovation that a lot of flights have now done to make sure that they don't have to pay more than they have to their employees while still maintaining some incentive to create that pool. Now, we must understand that innovation can either be incremental, just like the Ola app updating itself, building on top of the other, or it could be extremely radical. Uh, this could be Geo's free data launch. This radical movement particularly comes out of the fact that nobody is expecting this to happen. There is not an established market that is waiting for this to happen. There is an assumption. Then once this is done, it will, fly, or there will be a customer that will be of this. But the possibility of this happening in itself is so low that people are not expecting it out of their head. Hence, these are called radical innovations, unlike incremental innovations. Now let's talk about entrepreneurship and the phase in which it has come around India, and different kinds of entrepreneurship. This slide is particularly useful for you in case you want to understand definitions and have a clear-cut demarcation of the exact difference, because all of these will at some point of time merge into feel the same. This is the slide in which we demarcate how different social entrepreneurship is from rural entrepreneurship, is from women entrepreneurship, and corporate entrepreneurship. Individually, you might still be available, have a meaning around things, have a somewhat idea, but this is where you actually make it extremely specific. And then we'll talk about some of the challenges that entrepreneurs face in India. This slide is particularly built for the Indian context, and hence let's get started. The first phase of entrepreneurship in India came pre-independence. When the Britishers came into the country, there were a community of people, especially along the coasts, who were doing international trades, who used to specifically, India was known as the spice garden of the world. Our trade used to go out in cotton, our trade used to go out in spices. We were known all across the world for some of these things, and there were some people back in the day who were trading this, and traders were typically the more prominent entrepreneurs back in the day. Once the Britishers came to India and then India got its freedom, all along this phase, the traditional traders were still the main people. However, when in 1947 India got free, the government of this country realized that we need not people, but processes and institutions that run entrepreneurship. Because even the Tatas and the Birlas back in the day were only few too many to be creating an entire country at that point of time. Hence, post-independence came PSUs. PSUs, or public sector undertakings, are run by the government and funded by the government to supply some very essential goods. Some of these could include BHEL, SAIL, GAIL, basically supply of oil and gas, coal, All of these are some institutes that started post-independence. Then came the liberalization phase. In the year of 1991 and 1992, India opened its gates for international customers and international businesses to come and set up in India. Previous to this and post independence from 1947 till 1991, the country was closed for people who were staying outside of this country to coming back, um, and setting up business because the people in this country were not economically and the technology was not developed enough for them to be competing within an international market. To make sure the economy grows in itself and becomes strong enough to sustain itself, India took that pause between 1947 and 1991, grew some industry in itself, and once it realized it was ready for an international transformation and having global competition inside the country and being face on face with it, then came the liberalization phase. This is when some of the biggest brands that we know across the country set up. People like Mr. Murthy, who set up Infosys. There was Wipro. All of these first generation big players came in, selling services to customers abroad or international customers or businesses setting up their base in India. Then today is where we at right now, the startup era. Today, some of the best startups and unicorns, not just in India but across the world, come from India. In fact, India is the third largest producer of unicorns. The first two I would leave for you to guess, and it's something that I would be asking later on in this session. Um, so yeah, those are the phases in which entrepreneurship has evolved across the country. Um, Now let's have an understanding of how different kinds of entrepreneurship, apart from the usuals that we see in an everyday basis, have evolved, and what are the clear differences amongst all of these. Social entrepreneurship involves profit and social impact. You could say foundations like Akshay Patra Foundation, which makes food affordable food for the poor and for the needy. They not only do business themselves, they create a positive social impact by serving the needy. There are other organizations, not just like Akshay Patra, but like say for example Selco, who makes solar panels. This not only saves us from a lot of carbon emissions, this also is a profitable business venture. For any social entrepreneurship to happen, please note that profit, if not immediate, at least at some point of time, is required. Without profit, it is not entrepreneurship. Without the goal of profit, or should I say, it is not entrepreneurship. It's just social work. When you combine social impact with profit or the idea of having profit at some point of time, it becomes social entrepreneurship. Then comes rural entrepreneurship. This involves local resources and employing them. Typically, what we expect is for entrepreneurs to be in tier one cities, tier two cities, in the heart of cities like Bangalore and Mumbai. But there's a lot of rural entrepreneurship also developing these days. Particularly an example, and the biggest example of this is Amul. Amul started back in the day with employing thousands of people to be giving them milk, producing this in a rural factory based out of Anand, and supplying milk to the entire country. These kinds of innovation and these kind of entrepreneurships are known as rural entrepreneurships. Women entrepreneurship are targeted towards increasing the participation of the female workforce in the Indian population. Presently, we see the number of women employed as opposed to men is comparatively low. To ensure that is not the case, and to ensure that women are represented on a global level and on a business level as well, some startups like Nykaa promote people from who are women, and they try to increase the participation. They try to create a space where women feel more involved and are taking business decisions, and hence this is called women entrepreneurship. Then comes corporate entrepreneurship. Some corporate groups become so big that they can choose to do entrepreneurship amongst themselves. One of the biggest example of this is the Tata Group. The Tata Group is spread far and wide from petrochemicals to batteries to motors. Now all of this combines come together, and hence when you see a Tata EV today, It is not only a separate division, but it is actually a culmination of different things that have come together. Tata Petrochemicals, Tata Motor Vehicles, uh, you know, and a lot of other Tata-led products. In fact, Tata Steel makes the steel that is used for making such vehicles. The best of best technology from all amongst the corporate group come together and forms an group, and hence this is called corporate entrepreneurship. Now let's look at some of these challenges in entrepreneurship specifically that are more relevant to India that we face a lot. First being the access to funding. This is because the credit rating in this country is measured along a certain number of parameters. People are not used to paying regular taxes, the kind of money it requires for them, especially from a formalized sector to be generating is a lot. Uh, it just does not fit well in the kind of money that they require, though they do not have a background and they do not hence get fundings from formal or informal sources at the lens that we would want to go with. Then comes the regulatory complexity, the number of documents that are required to make sure one business starts, the clarity of which business requires what kind of documentation is something that Indian startups suffer at a lot, especially when it comes to the government, because there's still, despite all the efforts made by the government, there's a lot of information asymmetry when it comes to getting regulatory licenses. A lot of infrastructure gaps, the roadways, the electricity, the rail network, all of these are not good enough, for entrepreneurship. Say, for example, a lot of entrepreneurship that could have developed in the Northeast is not developed there because the kind of infrastructure that connects it to India is not strong enough for it to be boosted like that. Then comes talent shortage, specifically in some specific conditions. Uh, Talent shortage is one of the biggest reasons in India. While we understand there's a lot of people who are unemployed, the kind of talent it requires for a person to be employed in general is less. And of course, there is a lot of market competition. Market competition requires heavy players from the international global market to be competing against you, which sometimes creates difficulty for entrepreneurs to start in India themselves. There has been some questions in the comment section around the date of CMAT. The date of CMAT has not been communicated yet on the official channel. As soon as this comes out, we will be the first one posting it out and spreading information. Once that is done, we'll definitely go out and tell you if the exam is postponed or not. By the time, the best way forward is to prepare for the exam as much as possible to make sure that we take the best step forward. One of the key aspects of the CMAT exam in the government innovation and entrepreneurship piece is how the government is supporting it, building on the context that we've developed from the last slide. Let's try to understand what the government has been doing, what has been its role going forward. Government initiatives, the government of India promotes entrepreneurship through a lot of different ecosystems. Let's talk about each of them individually. They provide funding, skilling, incubation, policy support, and right now, the aim is to create more than 1.5 crore jobs in MSME. MSME or micro, small, and medium enterprises are startups, and the aim of the Indian government is to generate more than 1.5 crore jobs through it, battling unemployment, which is at an all-time high in this country right now. Some of the most key policies that you absolutely need to know about before you give the entrepreneurship and innovation series in the CMAT are these the Startup India movement. The Startup India movement started in January 2016, supported 1.25 lakh recognized startups, making India the third largest startup, as I already mentioned, in the country. The Mudra Yojana, which was started 1 year before the Startup India launched, provides collateral-free loans. So the first problem that we saw in the previous slide of access to funding is somewhat solved by providing collateral-free loans up to the lakh of 10 lakhs, benefiting 40 crore borrowers. Sorry. Uh, S- Skill India. Skill India launched in 2015. Skill India aims to skill 40 crore people. This particularly targets the section where we were talking about talent shortage in the country. This tries to solve for that piece with 40 crore people by 2025 having vocational and digital skills, one of the most sought after skills in the country. And Adult Innovation Mission set up with 10,000 adult tinkering labs in schools to promote innovation amongst young students. The aim of Adult Innovation Mission is to start innovating at a very young age with students who are coming up with new and bright ideas and to channelize their energy into the right stream and sectors. Then, of course, is the Make in India movement. We've all heard about this. This was launched even 1 year before the Mudra Yojana came out. Make in India targets 25 sectors basically, but manufacturing, increasing the share of manufacturing in India to 25% of the GDP and boosting employment. Primarily, as India has been heavy traditionally in the primary sector, that is the agricultural sector. Uh, then the service sector of the industry, which is the third sector, came in. The sector in between, which is the manufacturing industry setup, did not see a very strong rise in phase, and then Make in India actually tries to solve for that piece by uh, creating this market and manufacturing is encouraged through Make in India movements. The government procures things, the government buys things that are made in India and promotes things as well. Those are some of the government promotion entrepreneurial ventures that we've entered through. Uh, some very basic definitions of what a startup in India means in the very first place. An entity is considered startup if it meets all of these criteria and not one of them. It should be headquartered in India. No, you cannot be in the United States. You cannot be based out of Dubai and have a head office there and call it an Indian startup. You need to be headquartered in India. You need to be registered either as a PLC or as a partnership firm or as an LLP. LLP stands for Limited Liability Proprietorship. We'll talk more about this in our later sections. And you should not complete 10 years since the incorporation on registration. That means you're not a startup. You're already an established brand and you've already completed 10 years. Then you do not get the recognition of a startup. Your turnover should be less than 100 crores for any financial year. That means you cannot be earning more than this money and still avail the benefits that come out of being a startup and working on innovation in products, process, and services. So this should be something new that your startup is trying to solve, either some sort of a marketing innovation or a process innovation or a product innovation or any kind of innovation, organizational innovation, but it should be something new. And the scalable business model with high employment generation potential, that is always something that is preferred. It should not be something that can only be relevant to, say, for example, 10, maybe 20 people. It should be a scalable business model. Those were some of the lessons we've covered in session number two, building on the theories that we've already had in session number one. I hope this session was useful to you. The CMAT exam notification is going to be out in no time. I hope you are already preparing for it, and this section helps you again. We will be meeting again tomorrow at 5 p.m. at the same location at the same time to discuss more key concepts on the CMAT series. Of course, if you want to be a part of the SuperGrads by top rankers, GDPI preparation or CMAT preparation or CAT 2026 preparation in general, you can always use my discount coupon and get 15% off on all such courses. I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you everybody for joining. Hope to see you at 5 p.m. tomorrow.